The steam from a hot shower still clung to the air in our Rio de Janeiro apartment as I lay down in bed next to Mariana, my wife of 20 years. She snapped her book shut, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet room. My stomach tightened. That was a bad sign. Getting her to turn off her reading light was usually a nightly battle. "We need to talk," she said. A chill I knew all too well crept down my spine. That was an even worse sign. Mariana had been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, a condition that surfaced, or at least one I finally noticed, shortly after the birth of our first child. Therapy had worked for a while, but since then, I'd mostly just tried to be accommodating. "I want a hall pass," she said, her voice flat. I knew what the term meant, but I was stunned she did. "What the hell is a hall pass?" I asked, playing dumb. "This isn't going to work if you get angry," she warned. A hall pass is when a married person is given permission to have sex outside the marriage. I stared at her, the words struggling to form. "You're asking me to let you sleep with another man? Why?" "You just don't satisfy me," she said, without a hint of emotion. "Not like some of the guys I was with before you. If there's something I'm not doing, something that would help, we can talk about it. I've always told you that. What used to satisfy you?" "It's not about what you do or don't do," she retorted, her words a deliberate, low blow. "It's your equipment." I was lost in a fog of shock and hurt, barely registering that she was still talking. "Several of the other teachers have been with Lucas, and they all say he's incredible. Amazing stamina, great equipment, and he can go for hours." "Wait," I interrupted, my head snapping up. "Who is Lucas? Are you even listening to yourself?" "Lucas is the new PE teacher at the school. He's in incredible shape. Shaved head, looks like a famous athlete, just with a better tan." "So you want my permission to sleep with a guy from your school because your colleagues say he's good in bed? Does Clara's husband know about this? Is he okay with it?" "Why are you so angry?" she asked, genuinely perplexed. "I'm getting older. I don't know how much longer men will find me attractive. This could be my last real adventure." My mind was racing. One thing about Mariana, she could construct a logical argument for anything she wanted, at least logical in her own head. "Absolutely not," I said, my voice cold. "And if you need a reason, let me remind you of your wedding vows. Forsaking all others. Besides, we slept together plenty of times before we got married. You seemed pretty satisfied with my equipment back then." "I wasn't." "Then why did you marry me?" She just shrugged. I grabbed my pillow and went to one of our son's empty bedrooms. They were both away at university in Sao Paulo. Sleep was impossible. Mariana's OCD was clearly in overdrive. This had been the pattern since our eldest was born. She took what was supposed to be a 6-month maternity leave, which stretched into a year of hell for me. She'd call me at work, furious over the tiniest things. Her sister Fernanda once tore into her after Mariana called, complaining that I'd left a few breadcrumbs on the kitchen counter. "Are you serious?" Fernanda had yelled. "I just found out my husband is cheating on me for the second time, and you're calling me in tears because your husband left crumbs on a counter? Get a grip." Her compulsions were another thing keeping me awake. We'd argued for weeks about her wanting new living room furniture. We'd had unexpected expenses that year. A new roof after a storm tore through Guanabara Bay, and I wanted to wait. I came home one day to her standing in the living room, beaming. "Surprise," she'd said. gesturing to a full set of brand new furniture she'd bought without me. But it was the third pregnancy that pushed us into therapy. After our second daughter was born, Mariana became obsessed with trying for a boy. We had agreed on 2 children long before we were married. My entire financial plan, college tuition, retirement savings, was built around a family of 4. The argument had been dragging on for over a year when one night I was taking out the trash and the bag split open, spilling its contents across the yard. As I cleaned up the mess, I found them, dozens of her birth control pills, discarded. I stormed back inside, the pills clutched in my fist, and threw them on the table in front of her. "You stopped taking your pills without telling me?" I screamed. "Well, I knew you wouldn't sleep with me if I told you I'd stopped," she answered calmly. "Go to hell. I'm not touching you again." "Too late," she said with a small, triumphant smile. "I'm already pregnant. I was just waiting for the right time to tell you." I walked out that night and was in a lawyer's office in downtown Rio the next morning. He spoke in a calm, measured tone that slowly brought me back from the edge. When I finally stopped pacing, we discussed all the other things Mariana did that drove me crazy. He agreed that what she did was wrong, but he explained that in Brazil, a divorce would mean she'd get half of everything. Financially, it wouldn't solve my problems. He suggested therapy instead and recommended someone. For a few years, it was a relief. The therapist quickly identified Mariana's OCD. We had a few joint sessions, and Mariana saw him individually every week for months. He laid into her about the third child, reinforcing that it was a decision that required consent from both partners. Her sister gave her the same lecture. We talked about her tendency to fixate on trivial matters. The therapist suggested that when something was bothering her, she should write it down, put the paper away for a few days, and then reread it. He told her to make a list of all the good things in her life and compare it to the problem she'd written down. If it still felt monumental, she should share the paper with me. That advice is what led me to start writing this. It gave me something to do when I couldn't sleep. It helped calm me down. But 20 minutes later, the image of my wife wanting to cheat on me would come roaring back. I pictured running into her lover at a school event in Niterói, the humiliation burning in my gut. I thought of Clara's husband, a man who always annoyed me, and wondered how many other husbands at that school had just said yes. What about the principal, Jane? Was her husband in on this too? It was nearly time to get up for work at my office in Barra da Tijuca when I started writing about Mariana's compulsions. She'd bought the furniture after I said no. She'd stopped her birth control after I said no. What were the chances she would give up on her last great adventure just because I said no? I called in sick and contacted my lawyer. It was the only thing I could think to do. Once again, his calm voice steadied my nerves. He suggested a private investigator, warning me they weren't cheap and there was no guarantee of success. He also reminded me that I had no proof Mariana would actually go through with it. After I agreed to hire the PI, the exhaustion hit me like a physical blow. On a whim, I packed a bag and checked into a hotel in Copacabana. A fitful sleep took me quickly, but I woke up a few hours later, pacing the small room, my mind a whirlwind of useless plans. Shooting them both was, for a fleeting moment, at the top of the list. My phone buzzed. I let it go to voicemail, hoping for a text from Mariana, maybe an apology. But the message was from the private investigator. He introduced himself and sent a photo of a woman asking if I knew her. I recognized Clara immediately and told him she was one of the teachers having an affair with the PE teacher. I sent him a picture of Mariana. A moment later, he sent a photo of a man who looked every bit the athlete she had described. He asked if I recognized him. I said no, but that he matched the description. 20 minutes later, another message arrived. It was a picture of the man and Clara walking into a motel in the South Zone. He asked if I knew the place. It was just down the street from my hotel. We arranged to meet there. He was the most average-looking man you could imagine, sitting in an equally average-looking van with a faded logo on the side. The only thing that stood out was the thousands of dollars of camera and listening equipment in the back, like something from a spy movie. The PI introduced himself as Joao. He said I was lucky. His previous client had just reconciled with his wife after she confessed to an affair. Sorry for your bad luck, I said. He shrugged. Don't be. There's always more work, especially since the pandemic ended. We talked for a few minutes before Clara emerged from the motel room. Joao noted they'd been in there for 45 minutes. Lucas appeared at the door to kiss her goodbye. He looked naked under a loosely tied robe, and Clara had the dazed, satisfied look of a woman who had just been thoroughly loved. Or maybe that was just my imagination. Joao was busy snapping photos. Through a speaker in the van, I could hear their voices, tinny and distant. Joao had planted a bug on the doorframe. They were arranging to meet again. Same time, same place, next week. That's great news, Joao said with a wry smile. Some people are so consistent. It's almost impressive. Makes my job a lot easier. Just then, we heard a cell phone ring through the bug. Must be coming from inside the room, Joao murmured. It's a shame we can't hear the conversation, but I'll try to get a mic and a camera inside the room tonight. Video a gold in a divorce proceeding. I was about to leave when another woman walked up to the door. She didn't knock, just opened it and stepped inside. Before it swung shut, we heard her say, I hope you didn't shower. You know how much I like it? Joao must have taken 100 photos in those few seconds. My God, I whispered, that's the principle. Just last night, I had wondered, but I hadn't truly believed it. I don't know how long you plan on staying, Joao said, but I don't mind the company. I'll be here for a while, at least until he leaves. Then I'll tail him. Do you have his address? It might be on the school's Christmas card list. I'll check. Great. While you do that, could you grab us some coffee? Black for me. And get an extra cup, please. Lucas's address was on the Christmas card list, which I found in one of Mariana's old emails. We shared passwords, a habit I now made a mental note to change immediately. As Joao drove to a nearby cafe, I tried to remember if the principal was married. A few hours later, the principal and Lucas emerged. Joao started the van. I'll have to take you with me, he said, as he pulled out, following Lucas at a distance. I didn't mind. It was better than stewing in my hotel room. While we tailed him, I told Joao about Mariana's request for a hall pass. People read too much erotica, Joao grunted. Lucas stopped at a fast food joint in São Gonçalo, then drove to the address I'd given Joao. We watched for an hour before Joao called it a night. I never involve a client in the operational side of things, he said as he drove me back. But since you're just going to be sitting in your hotel room, maybe you can help me with one more thing. I want to plant some gear in that motel room. You can be my lookout. He handed me an earpiece. You'll hear everything I say. Just give me a heads up if there's any risk of me being caught. Joao grabbed a gym bag from the back and walked into the motel lobby. I heard him ask for a room. The usual keys? The clerk asked. Yeah, there's a 5 real deposit on the key. That's why some are missing. I need to call a locksmith. 2 of them are for long-term guests. Long-term? Joao asked. Yeah, guys whose companies give them a big travel per diem. They stay in cheap places like this and pocket the difference. It may be cheap, but it's clean. Business slow. Dropped off when the Marriott opened on Avenida Atlantica, the clerk sighed. Well, my boss thinks I'm staying at the Marriott, Joao said with a chuckle. I'll probably be here a week. The clerk was still laughing as Joao left the lobby and entered a room a few doors down from Lucas's love nest. All clear? He whispered into his mic. All clear, I replied. I barely saw him as he slipped out of his room, a gray shadow against the dim lighting. He paused at Lucas's door for a second, then disappeared inside. 15 minutes later, his voice crackled in my ear. Clear? Clear. He was back in the van a few minutes later, showing me the feed from the cameras he'd installed. He assured me that anything and everything that happened in that room would now be recorded. As I got out of the van, he stopped me. Listen, he said, his professional tone softening slightly. You know your wife better than anyone. You have a decision to make. Do you want to let her cheat so you can divorce her? Or do you want to stop this and try to live happily ever after? Depending on your answer, staying at the hotel could push her one way or the other. There's a chance that if you go home, this whole thing might just blow over. My wife is obsessive and compulsive, I said, the words tasting like ash. I'm sure she made up her mind long before she ever spoke to me. In fact, I'd be surprised if she hasn't already slept with him. I think that whole conversation, I guess she was a firm believer in asking for forgiveness rather than permission. I returned home the next day after she had left for work. There were matters to settle, like our joint credit cards, but I'd be free in the afternoon if you needed company. I do adore good company, he had said. He spoke of his distaste for the job, the endless hours alone in that van, and the constant pursuit by some traitor. We agreed to meet the following day, and he handed me the key to his hotel room. Meanwhile, Mariana had called and messaged me a dozen times that evening, her final voice message pleading for forgiveness, begging me to come back. I could hear the tears in her voice, and it made me ache with guilt for causing her pain. By the next morning, that guilt had faded. The doorbell camera alerted her to my return, and she sent a grateful message, thanking me for coming home. She mentioned a school peace meeting and said she'd be late, hoping we could talk afterward. After sorting out our shared accounts and cards, I headed to Joao's motel room. A "Do Not Disturb" sign hung on the door. As soon as I opened it, my phone rang. It was Joao. I see you've arrived, he said. How did you know? I asked. I've got a motion sensor camera in here. Didn't want the cleaning staff touching my things. Opened the 2 cases on the dresser and flipped the switch. I turned on the clearly labeled switch, and a dozen video screens flickered to life inside the cases. One even showed my back. The camera was in the lamp. You can cover it if you want privacy, he added. Take a nap. I'll alert you when Lucas is on his way. Hours later, my phone's ring woke me. It was a text from Joao, with a photo of my wife and Lucas chatting on the school steps. He asked me to confirm it was her. I did. His next message warned me not to touch anything else in the cases, It was all automated. He called shortly after. They're leaving the parking lot now. I'm tailing your wife. I never should have let you get involved. So hear me. No matter what happens, don't turn violent. If she goes there, and I think she will, the best revenge is a clean divorce that leaves you financially secure. The worst is rotting in a cell, explaining to your kids why you killed their mother. I agreed, though uncertainty gnawed at me. On the screens, I watched as my wife's car pulled into the motel lot, followed closely by Lucas's. They entered the room. She looked nervous, and he offered her a drink to steady her nerves. She chose cachaça, her favorite, and downed 3 shots quickly. He embraced her, saying, "It's okay if you have doubts. You're so beautiful, Valka. I've wanted you since day one, but only if it's what you want. We can wait." "Are you kidding?" she replied, pulling him into a kiss that escalated rapidly. Seeing her kiss another man ignited a rage in me, but it swiftly dissolved into profound sadness. Our marriage was dead. Those dreams of retiring together, traveling the Northeast, all shattered. How would I explain this to our daughters? Joao entered as she unbuttoned her blouse, revealing the sexy bra I'd bought her. She slipped it off, and Lucas's hands were on her. "Rage or depression?" Joao asked. "Rage at the first kiss, then depression," I admitted. "Good," he said. "Means you won't do anything stupid." I wasn't so sure. As we talked, Mariana said to Lucas, "You don't know how long I've waited to be with a man like you again." "Am I the first?" he asked. "No." I spent hours at football and basketball frat parties in college. I have a sword tattoo on my back, but I covered it before meeting my husband, Antoine. Why marry him? He's a genius, handsome too. I knew he'd provide and give me smart, beautiful kids. What if he leaves you? He's a coward. If he finds out, he'll make a fuss, then apologize and try to make me happy. "Do you want to talk about your husband or keep going?" Lucas pressed. Joao watched my reaction. I felt suicidal, seeing her wedding ring as she reduced me to merely a sperm donor. "Did you know about her past?" Joao asked. "We met after college and never discussed our previous sex lives. I assumed hers was like mine, a few steady partners. But this?" On the screen, they stood and began undressing. "You don't need to watch this," Joao said. "The idea of her with another man is hard, but her belittling me is worse. It's like witnessing a train wreck, the collapse of our future built on lies. I think I need to see it through. Maybe I could have forgiven her without this. Her parents and I were close. They'd lost theirs years ago and treated me like a son. Her father and I hiked in Petropolis and went to Flamengo games. He always said I was the son he wished for. Mariana had a sister, Fernanda, but no brothers. As Joao and I conversed, their encounter became background noise, like a forgotten game on TV. They parted with a kiss, and she left. I debated going home, but Joao advised, "Go, but avoid any confrontation. Once it starts, you won't know how to end it. Keep this secret until you talk to your lawyer." Lucas's call interrupted us. "She's gone." The headmistress arrived minutes later, and after their deed, she left, followed by Lucas. I stared at the blank screens, feeling the weight of post-traumatic stress. A plan formed in my mind. "Joao, I don't want you complicit in blackmail. If it's about getting a better divorce settlement from your wife, I could look the other way. I'll give you copies of today's videos, and the other surveillance footage. By our agreement, it's yours. But if you're thinking of the headmistress, don't. Think of those conversations with your daughters from a prison cell. I meant the financial settlement with my wife. I'm depressed, angry at her, at Lucas, at the headmistress for enabling it. But my rage at Mariana isn't just for the betrayal. She warned me, after all. It's for the grand lie. Our whole life was a facade. I was just a sperm donor. Joao handed me a DVD with all the footage. I took it home, scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, copied the DVD to my computer, and edited parts for my daughters. Just an audio clip where she called me a coward and a donor in case I needed it. I also cut a short segment for her feet, mainly the beginning, where she eagerly told Lucas she craved a real man again. That night, I called and invited myself to my in-laws in Angra dos Reis. They welcomed me as family, but seeing my face, everything hit me. I broke down crying, as if for my own lost parents. Finally, I told them Mariana was cheating. Their disbelief turned to acceptance as I explained her request for permission. I offered the video on a flash drive. Do you want to see it? I asked. No, they said, but her father took it anyway. I don't really want to, but I feel I should. It's just the start, no full sex, but audio where she calls you a sperm donor. My lawyer had already reviewed the DVDs and was drafting divorce papers for swift notification. He advised me to go home. The papers would require her to leave, though her lawyer might delay it. It's straightforward, he said. No threats, but she'll know everything could come out in court. The bigger issue was the headmistress. As a court official, I had to report illegal activity. Her affair with Lucas and tolerance of his behavior with other teachers violated her contract. Joao had left the monitoring equipment running and gave me videos of other teachers' affairs as a farewell gift. I knew these women and their husbands. Perhaps they all had permissions like Clara's, or maybe not. I sent the videos to the husbands, not out of vengeance, but because misery loves company. It leaked to the press anyway. The story hit the front page of O Globo. A male PE teacher involved with several colleagues, including the headmistress. The leak derailed my plans to talk to my daughters first. Before I could explain, they saw her name in the news and rallied around me. I never played the audio for them. Daily leaks followed. O Globo sued the school board for video access, and the board fought back. I dreaded the world knowing about her affair, especially if it revealed my own inadequacies. On the third day, reports emerged that at least one husband had approved his wife's affair. Clara's husband was quoted. We other husbands weren't pleased. Clara's husband faced online backlash, with cuckold sprayed on his car. It worsened when video clips leaked. The school board tried a closed meeting, but the press won, forcing it public. They canceled the next due to overcrowding, rescheduling at the school auditorium. A motion was proposed to revoke the tenures of the 6 involved teachers. The union rep announced they'd all resigned that morning, along with the PE teacher. The next day, news broke that the headmistress and Lucas had known each other since college, where their affair began. Chaos ensued over her hiring. The board's lawyer cited 25 contract violations. She was fired immediately. Warrants were issued for her and Lucas, but they'd vanished. Then, a call from my father-in-law. Mariana claims you manipulated the video to turn us against her. She wants us to hire an expensive lawyer for her divorce and to sue you for defamation. You want to see it? I asked. No, he replied, and I've told her that if she's lied, she's out of our lives. But she's insistent. I have to watch and expose you as a liar. I suggested he contact my lawyer to obtain an official copy, if such a thing were even possible. Then he asked the pivotal question: would I watch it with them? I wanted to say no. The nightmares were still fresh of her whispering poison about me to her lover, but I couldn't bring myself to refuse. And so, on a Friday night, in one of the most surreal moments of my life, I sat with my in laws and my soon to be ex wife in their home in Angra dos Meos, preparing to watch what was essentially an adult film starring their daughter on a large screen TV. Her father poured us 2 large glasses of cachaça. I think we're going to need this, he said. The video opened on an empty motel room as Lucas and Mariana walked in. We watched her down a shot of cachaça before Lucas pulled her into an embrace. Mariana's mother gasped, "Oh my God," as the two of them began to kiss. Everyone's eyes were glued to the television, but I was watching Mariana. She had to know I hadn't tampered with the tape. So, what was her game? My in-laws were in stunned shock when Mariana knelt before Lucas. Her mother finally snapped when Mariana began telling Lucas about her experiences at university parties. She shot up from the couch and slapped her daughter across the face. "Guess what, Mom and Dad?" Mariana spat, a broken sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. "Your sweet little girl has been a slut for guys like him for a long, long time. I can't even count how many there have been. There are so many whose names I never even knew. Hell, some of them, I never even saw their faces." Her mother grabbed her by the hair and began dragging her toward the front door. Mariana ended up sprawled on her back on the lawn, legs agape. Before she could get up, her father was at the door, hurling her suitcases and a heap of her clothes out after her. Mariana scrambled to dodge the flying luggage as her parents screamed in unison, "Get your slutty ass off our lawn before you kill the grass! Don't you ever come back, or we'll have you arrested." I was stunned, unable to process what had just happened. I had no idea what to expect, but it certainly wasn't this. Mariana's mother switched off the TV and handed me the DVD. Her father and I sat back down on the sofa and reached for our drinks. I didn't know how to end the evening. Should I just get up and leave? Thank them for a pleasant night? Apologize for putting them through this? I decided to wait, at least until Mariana was gone from the street. I started to say I was sorry, but her father cut me off. "Don't be, son. We're the ones who are sorry for making you watch that again." I knew she was lying, but I saw no other way. We sat in silence for another moment, and then I rose to leave. We embraced, and they pleaded with me to let them help in any way they could. At the door, her father invited me to a flamenco game that weekend. In Dunaz, no one, not even our daughters, heard from Mariana again. It was as if she had died. It was hardest on the girls, who were worried for their mother's well-being. I knew her parents weren't the type to cast her out and never look back, so they hired a private investigator to find her. A man named Joao did his job well. He managed to track a string of arrests for petty theft and prostitution across several cities, from Salvador to Porto Alegre. With a DNA sample from her parents, he eventually identified a body found in an unmarked grave in a Sao Paulo cemetery. It was Mariana. The advanced state of decomposition made it impossible to determine the cause of death, but she had been several months pregnant when she died. As for Lucas, a former football player in Recife, he was shot by a jealous husband who then took his own life. The shooter was Clara's husband. It was a fitting end. I was just grateful I wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. It could have easily been me. The private investigator's words on revenge stuck with me. You can get your vengeance in the courts, taking everything you can in the divorce. Or you can get it in an alley and end up in prison. I chose the former. It was a happy ending for me, perhaps, not so much for my wife. In the end, it was her own selfishness that authored her terrible fate.